My name is Brandon Thompson. I'm 25 years old and a literature graduate. That weekend was supposed to be a simple getaway. It turned into a nightmare that still follows me. Last summer, two friends, Eric and Daniel, and I rented a cabin through Airbnb in Catskills, New York. The plan was to spend a weekend away from the city, relax, drink wine, and forget about work. The house was beautiful. Dark wood, fireplace, a hammock on the porch, and a trail leading to a small lake at the back. Everything seemed perfect, except for one thing. There was a locked door next to the stairs, secured with an old padlock. The host said it was just the basement used to store family belongings, and it was off limits to guests. On the first night, we heard a hollow sound coming from the direction of the basement, like a single, dry knock. We thought it was the wood settling. We laughed it off and went on with the night. On the second night, the knocking returned. But this time, 3 knocks. A pause, then 2 more. It sounded like a pattern, as if someone was knocking, waiting for an answer. Eric approached the door and jokingly said, "Is anyone there?" Nothing. But that same night, while we were asleep, the porch motion alarm went off. We rushed outside, but there was nothing except for dirty, barefoot footprints on the wooden floor. On the last night, around 3 a.m., we heard something dragging on the other side of the basement door. It sounded like someone, or something, was leaning against it, trying to push it open from inside. Accidentally, Daniel knocked over a broom resting against the door. It fell, hit the padlock, and the door opened. The smell was unbearable. We went down with phone flashlights. Downstairs, there were 3 filthy mattresses, a rusty wheelchair, and a wall full of claw marks, like someone had been trying to escape for a long time. But the worst part was what was written in large charcoal letters on the far wall. "Thank you for letting me out. We ran out of that house. Didn't even take our stuff." This is how ordinary trips become memories you can't erase. Some stays. Never let you go. I'm Ethan James, 33 years old, and I work as a freelance photographer. I thought this would be just another stay, but that house had been waiting for me. Early last year, I got a job in Savannah, Georgia, and as usual, I preferred a more private place. I rented an Airbnb in the city's historic district. The house was from the 19th century, but fully renovated. It had charm, natural light, and even a cast iron bathtub in the master bedroom. As soon as I walked in, I noticed a strange smell of burnt incense, strong like sage or myrrh. It was odd, but I didn't pay much attention. The house had some old, gloomy paintings and a mirror covered by a black cloth in the hallway. It felt eerie, but again, I thought it was just eccentric decor. On the first night, around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to noises from the kitchen. It sounded like plates or glasses being moved. I walked slowly out of the bedroom, but when I looked, no one was there. Though I did notice wet footprints on the wooden floor, as if someone had walked barefoot from the backyard to the fridge. The strangest part, it hadn't rained that night. I thought about calling the host, but decided to wait. On the second night, while editing photos in the living room, I heard whispers coming from the hallway. I went to check, thinking maybe I had left a device on. As I passed by the covered mirror, I heard a sharp crack, like something hitting the glass from the inside. I lifted the cloth. In the center of the mirror, there was a strange mark, like someone had pressed their forehead against it, and right below, in something red, it said, "I never left." The next morning, I texted the host asking if anyone had reported strange things in that house. He read the message, but never replied. I stayed there one more night. I didn't sleep. That night, I heard footsteps coming from upstairs, but the house was single-story. I left before sunrise. Since then, I only stay in hotels.
My name is Josh Miller. I'm 29 years old, and I travel a lot for work. But this trip made me realize that some places don't want to be found. I'm a freelance video editor, and late last year I had to spend a week in Portland, Oregon, to cover a tech event. Since I needed peace and quiet, I chose an Airbnb further away from the city, in a quiet area surrounded by trees. The listing was perfect, isolated, silent, ideal for remote workers. The photos showed a charming house with a fireplace and a view of the forest. I arrived in the late afternoon. Everything seemed fine. I made some coffee, opened my laptop, and started organizing my work. But around 2 in the morning, things started to get strange. I was lying down, almost asleep, when I heard a noise coming from the kitchen, a soft but distinct sound, like a cupboard opening and closing. I stayed still for a few seconds, trying to listen. Silence. I got up, grabbed my phone, and went to check. Nothing out of place. Everything closed. I went back to sleep, but an hour later I heard footsteps upstairs. There's just one detail. The house was single-story. I got up again, checked everything. The noise wasn't coming from the roof. It was the sound of someone walking in socks on a wooden floor. The next morning, I texted the host asking if the house had an attic or maintenance area. He replied, "No, the house is single-story. Maybe an animal on the roof. It's common around here." I tried to ignore it, but on the second night, something even more bizarre happened. When I went to brush my teeth before bed, I noticed the bathroom mirror was fogged up, as if someone had just taken a hot shower, but I hadn't used it yet. And in the middle of the mirror, someone had written with a finger in the steam, "You are not alone." I left the bathroom immediately, grabbed my things, threw them in my backpack, and left that same night. I never rented a house near a forest again.